Hello my friends, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing very well. In today's video, I wanted to cover the new Q's Assimilated hostels we got this month. They're a little bit tricky. I'd actually already recorded the video, and as I was getting ready to post it, someone had mentioned something about the hostels in Discord. Thanks so much to you, Mad Dog, for helping remind me to catch this before I put a video out there. But I was like, oh, that completely changes kind of the things I need to cover in the video. So a little bit of a head scratcher there. Trying to present in the best way possible for you all. We'll talk about crews, we'll talk about the testing I did and where I found the most benefit, and then one or two of the crews I found that worked pretty well, and kind of the methodology or the reasoning behind it. So hopefully you can do your own kind of testing based upon what officers you have and see what works best for you. So anyways, let's hop into it because the players matter. All right, here we are in game. I'll go ahead and get rid of my camera real quick. And let's talk about the hostels, okay? So, the Q Continuum, Assimilated hostels. This one right here is the Prohibitor class. Let me show you where we're at in game though. We're right here next to Federation Space, kind of between where the Mega Cube is and the Texas hostels, you know, with the Monavine and so forth. But we're in these systems right here, okay? And so here's where the hostels are at, and it's interesting. I did some testing because my strongest ship for my level is Enterprise D, and so when I initially did the testing, I thought, okay, I want to go with the triangle. I want to keep it all consistent with my below deck officers, and then I want to only change those on the bridge to get accurate and comparable results with each of my runs, because you know there's a certain amount of randomness, you know, if a hostel is going to pop a critical and how that's going to affect you and so forth. And so, you know, that's what I did. But what's interesting is they are slightly different. So let's talk about that. So this is the interceptor. This is the type I was hitting. If you look at all three types, they have different abilities, and that's where the main difference is. But it looks like all of their firing patterns are the same, where they fire 2 shots from each energy weapon and 4 from each kinetic. So you have a combination of energy and kinetic weapons that you're looking at there. You could potentially consider using like a Chen or Talon, I suppose. I didn't include that in my testing, but I'll show you what I did test. So the tough part here is, unlike there's some systems like, for example, the silent hostels, where if you go in and hit all the interceptors, you're out of interceptors. You've got to hit something else to get those interceptors to pop. So you can't crew just like with the Gorn. If you go and hit the Gorn hostels, you can hit interceptors pretty much all day long, at least until you run out of hull on your ship, right? But these don't, the systems, as far as I could tell, did not work that way at all. And so for kind of to come up with a video that I can say, okay, let's do some testing and let's find a crew that general purpose will work. We'll talk about that in a minute, a crew that I use and kind of where my thoughts are with that. But let's talk about each one of these, and we'll talk about some potential officers that offset some of these. And I will rely on you if I've missed something to give me some information, because I'm not perfect and I'm still learning with each and every one of you. Want to learn and grow together and become stronger together. So feel free to add some comments below to help me if I've missed something. So with the interceptor here, it's like in a lot of other interceptors in the game, that kind of rely on hull breach. That's kind of their thing. So on combat start, hull breach enemy player. So you're gonna get hull breach at the beginning of the round. This ship increases the critical chance by 10% for 2 rounds every time it hits with a weapon when the player's hull breach. You're gonna be hull breach. The hostle's critical damage cannot fall below 150%. So what I did with this is I did some testing, and I will pull this up really quick here. And we won't go into too much detail here for the kind of time sake of the video. I did post this in my Discord for those that are interested, and I always put my Discord link in the description down below, so check that out for you if you want to look at more of the details of this. In theory, I was saying, okay, I've got an Explorer, and if I'm hitting the interceptors, I want to try and limit their critical chance. So that's where Phlox comes into play here. I have a tier 1 Phlox, and he reduces their critical chance by like 45%. And obviously it's, let's see here, increases critical chance by 10% for 2 rounds every time it hits with a weapon. So I'm assuming that this just keeps adding up. So you want to have short rounds, right? These rounds were around 4 to 5 rounds, so that worked pretty well. I did see that the Strange New World crew seemed to do decent with these, but once again I was hitting with the triangle, and you may run out of hostiles, so some of you may not find that as beneficial. It was funny, I was out hitting hostiles and I hit one that was not, wasn't an interceptor, and I took a lot of damage, and my initial thought was, wow, okay, just stick with the triangle. I thought they just punched harder because I was going against a triangle. Looking at the details, it's because they have different abilities. So we'll talk about that. Okay, so ultimately looking at the loot, that's something that is important here to mention, is that you can get a lot of loot by hitting the hostiles. Well, I should say you can get some loot by hitting the hostiles, but where you're gonna get most of your loot is the loot boxes. So think about punching down. Think about going to a lower level system and hitting the hostiles. I went to 56 level system, and I'll show you the crew I used, where I was just hitting anything I could reach because I wanted to see how well I could do again with the crew I used, which once again I'll talk about in a minute. And I ended up getting like 70. It was about, I think, about 74,000 from the hostiles, and then I got around 400 something thousand, like 409,000 or something like that, from the loot boxes. So significant difference. So loot boxes is where it's going to come in, and you're going to have to determine how many hostiles you want to hit. I didn't hit over 100. I don't remember the exact number. It was in the 70s, so I hit around 70 hostiles because it was one hostile per, or one loot box per hostile I destroyed, and so that just can kind of give you an idea in the 56 level system, which I want to say it was around 7,000 loot per hostile. I'm sure people in the community are doing research, and we'll have results on that soon. So that's the first hostile. Let's look at the battleship. As a lot of other battleships, they're burning. Burning is their ability. This ship increases its standard damage by 15% for 2 rounds every time it hits with a weapon while the player is burning. So I think with a lot of these, another key factor to consider is taking the hostiles out quickly, because they're just going to ramp up their damage every round. So the longer you're in a battle with them, the more damage you're going to take. Upon combat start, apply burning to enemy players. So you're going to be burning, and you're going to be taking a lot of damage. Okay, let's look really quick at the Explorer. This ship increases its isolate damage by 15% for 2 rounds every time it hits with a weapon while having morale. It's interesting. Pelia is one that comes to mind when I think about this one, because she can help reduce your isolated damage. There's also artifacts, and so while this ramps up, you could take a significant amount of isolated damage. So having her tiered and below deck is probably a good option for this one. And so if you're hitting whatever hostiles you can, like I was, I found that I think that having her below decks is going to be a really good benefit to the players. And once again, this is going to depend on how many slots you have below decks. That's something you'll have to kind of manage. As far as the burning goes, Severus is a good officer for combating that. If you're just hitting the one hostile type, you're hitting battleships. When the ship is burning from the opponent, he decreases the opponent's whole health by 10% each round. So you kind of think about Tal. He kind of works like Tal, where he's reducing the whole health. So he can limit the number of rounds, and you can add officers for synergy to increase that. So that could be something worth testing if you focus just on those ship types. And when the ship is burning from the opponent, he increases the damage of the ship by whatever percent. My Cerberus is max, yours may or may not be, but he's going to increase the damage output of your ship too. I mean, 60%, is that a great percentage? Maybe not, but I think the spreading fire ability where you're decreasing the opponent's whole health is kind of important on that one. So let me speed up the repair and I will show you the crew that I use. I love this smart speed up thing, by the way. Yep, just use my speed ups. Don't even tell me, assuming it works right, of course. So here's the crew that I used. I used Janeway, Doctor, MH Doctor, and I put Tim Allen on there just to kind of see, okay, how much will that Apex kind of help? I have in the past put B'Elanna Torres on the bridge, but I found putting her below deck for her triggering hull breach seemed to be a lot more effective. I am also going to test putting like a Khan on here to increase my criticals to end the battle sooner. Also possibly putting 5 of 11 on there for increased loot drops. I think ultimately whatever you can do to reduce your damage, in this case, if you're hitting whatever kind of hostile that suits your fancy, then I think this is kind of a good crew, at least the basic idea there. Once again, for those who don't know, Janeway increases your shield mitigation when she's hit. Let's see if we can find that in the battle rounds. Just to show it for those who haven't seen it and who maybe you don't have Janeway, I would highly recommend you work towards getting her. So we're getting hit by the hostile here, getting hit by the hostile, and then she triggers, increases shield mitigation by whatever percent. So you can see here that we're taking 0 whole health damage, which is one of the benefits of having Janeway. There, I believe we should see that she increases right here. So we go from about 600,000 600,000 whole health to much lower whole health. Looks like they got critical here. And I'd have to look at their firing pattern, but I'm guessing that we have a difference between energy and kinetic weapons here. But then when she pops again, now if we had Janeway with another Voyager crew on the bridge, that would increase your shield mitigation by 20%. So you would have had the first shots do damage, and then the second shots would not have. And so it just depends. It maybe we're testing to put like Taurus on the bridge if I'm looking at just reducing the damage that's incoming, seeing how well that happens. So here we've got damage, significantly reduced damage because she's not completely stopping the damage. Your normal shield mitigation of 80-20 goes from 80 to 93, so it stops a good chunk of the damage that comes in. But you have to take damage for it to trigger. So there we go. There's the 0 damage once again. So I think this crew worked out pretty well. Like I said, I'm going to have to play with it. And what I would recommend is looking at some of these crew options. Having a look and saying to yourself, okay, Grand Admiral Hunter, we've talked about some of this stuff. We've looked at some of the different crew that you talked about. We've looked at the officers, and you'll have to see how it goes. Personally, I'm probably gonna go with something like Janeway for now until I find something better. It's the best thing I've found so far, mostly because I don't want to have to chase down interceptors for my Enterprise and then be stuck like, okay, I'm out of interceptors, what do I do now? I like having the option to be able to hit more or less whatever I want, and for me, using the Enterprise, maybe I avoid battleships, but I go after explorers and interceptors, so I'm at least going with or with the triangle, but not against it, if that makes sense. I did, for testing purposes, I did make sure, let's hit battleships, let's hit explorers, let's hit interceptors, let's hit any kind and just see how well it works out. And I didn't see that I lost too much hull. I lost more when I was hitting battleships, of course, but it wasn't like when I used previous crews I showed you that I was testing when I was just hitting the interceptors. So Janeway does a good job when you're hitting tough hostiles, in my opinion. So anyways, there's the thoughts. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you if you've come up with some good crew combinations. I think you come up with something that works for you. Really understanding the hostiles, I think, is key, so you can know what's the best strategy with the officers you have. I've said this in other videos before, but I've seen other either live streams or videos where some people were talking about, oh, this is the best crew, and I went and tried it and got destroyed. You know, and so I try to come up with these videos. You know, we're still in the early, this is just day one, so maybe we'll find some better combinations as we go on with this, but I want you to be able to at least understand the hostiles, so you can look at the crews that you have, the ships you have, and try and find the best combination for you as you're hitting these hostiles. I think punching down, going to a lower level system than your ops level is going to be key at this point, and we'll just have to see how well it goes, what crews we can come up with, and so forth. So feel free to join Discord if you haven't. You know, we have a community that I'm trying to build and grow, where we're just helping each other get better at this game and deal with tough mechanics like this. So I love sharing my information with you on YouTube, but also we talk in Discord. What crews are you using? How successful are you? And so forth. So we learn together and get stronger together. So anyways, thank you so much. If you have any questions, put them down below or join Discord and ask them there, and we will try and help you out with those. So thank you so much, and have a good day.